YouTube, welcome back to my channel Bonsai Works. I'm David, back into styling some trees now and working on trees after my visit to Japan. Hope you guys enjoyed the videos of me at some of the nurseries there, especially Kimura and Kobayashi's. Today I want to discuss this juniper cascade. This belongs to a customer of mine that I worked on this tree about 12 months ago. So I applied lots of heavy wire, made a nice cascade tree out of it. The owner's brought it back. He hasn't touched it pretty much, and it's nice and healthy and green. However, one big issue is the wire starting to cut in. So I always get this question about wire, when to take wire off and so on. So this is a good video for especially new people about how to take wire off when it's ready to be taken off, what you need to do, and so on regarding wire on trees. Thanks to one of my subscribers who actually asked, about me twisting up trees and so on, but how do you get the wire off? So today's all about how to get the wire off, or anything to do with wiring, and the effect on the tree. If wire's cutting in, what do you do? Do you remove? Do you cut off? Do you unwire? So let's go through that process. One of the things I want to highlight is this is what I do, not necessarily everyone else does this. So just pick and choose what you like, I guess, with this information. So let's start and have a look at the tree and how it's starting to cut in with the wire. So always when I work on the cascades, I start at the top, or any tree really. I start at the top and work my way down. Also what happens is I look at areas that need to be thinned out, trimmed back. You can see areas that are starting to grow too long, clean up underneath, things like that. We'll work through the whole tree and do it as well as we work from top to bottom. So let's have a look at the top, in the apex area, about what's happening. Alright, so the best thing is to show you what's happening in the apex area. Let me start off in this area. You can see clearly how that heavy wire has cut in, and the branch is, let me just focus for you. See that wire cutting in, and the branch is growing kind of around the wire. So it's kind of should have been taken off maybe a few months ago when it just started to cut in. This is a bit too much, but we can deal with it. That's the whole point of this video. We'll deal with it. Coming along further, you can probably see it even worse here in this spot right there. See how that wire and that bark is, obviously cutting in. The smaller wire is not too bad. There's a few ones in there that are starting to cut in and so on. So this is what I do. When you start seeing things like that, you obviously have to start, for me, I like to try and pry away anything that's kind of blocking these. For example, let's focus on these two. Anything that's in the way, I need to try and remove, okay? So before I even try and take that wire off, I need to try and make sure there's everywhere around it is clear. So really in this process, I've only got one hand, so I'll try to do it one hand. Usually, obviously need two. But in this case, the smaller wire I can safely, rather than cut off, I want to try and unwire, and so I can be careful. See how it's pulling away, pulling away, pulling away. So I need the leverage. It's easier to have leverage on a wire and pull it away rather than try and cut small pieces and then try and pull it off. So it's kind of a little bit stuck now, so I need to figure out other wires that I have to get rid of. So I go through the whole process. I'm finding all the little wires. I'm just trying to unwire the little ones because, as I said, it helps having leverage to take wire off. Now obviously you use two hands. It's just hard to hold the camera and try and do this with one hand. But here we go. Let's try this out. Alright, so I've actually removed all the fine wiring around the inside. I need to make sure it's all clear so that I can actually start to eliminate or remove this wire, which is causing major issues on this branch. Now the tree is still healthy. It's not actually impacting it, but any further along, it's going to be even worse. So what I try and do is try and find an area where I can get my you need a couple of one of these. So they're wire cutters specifically for cutting wire, and these are Japanese tools. Now this is, you can see their tips enable you to go right in there and cut it right at the trunk line, which is really important. So either one doesn't matter. I found this one is protruding enough for me to be able to get in there and cut it off, and actually separates. It actually separates a little bit. Now I try and be carefully try and pull a little bit. So I'll make another cut, try and further down. So cutting them into smaller pieces. Do not try and unwire this tree. So there you go, cut it off in small pieces. There's not too much damage in that area, but there is a little bit. Now I'll try and find another spot anywhere along the trunk that I can make more cuts. Now sometimes you can't go all the way through, but you can go partially through. So you start to just weaken the wire. In this case, because it's cutting in so badly, you have to weaken it, the wire. So you cut them in small pieces and then you just try and maneuver the wire out without causing any more damage to the tree. Now this is an important one. I've just taken that off and you can clearly see the damage cutting in. Not a problem. This will heal quite easily, so don't worry too much about this cutting in so much. It's still early enough that we got it to be able to just remove that. So it's a slow process of slowly finding areas along the wire where you just keep cutting and remove little chunks of it. That's how you safely do this without damaging the tree. This is aluminium wire, so it's cheap, easy to use, and it's just easy to replace, so no big deal. Just keep cutting it off as you work along until the tip. So when you get stuck in certain areas, and I'll show you what's happened in an earlier spot, and I'll show you that in a second, but I'll just work my way all the way to the top of the tree. Now usually I do say 6 to 12 months is how long you leave the wire on for. This has been 12 months. So you can see it probably was better to remove it around the 6 to 8 months. So that's important to know. So some of these I've got to kind of wiggle away, or I cut even smaller pieces, like really small pieces off, and just slowly work my way through. And then the bit that's protruding comes off quite easily. So now I'm in the spot here where it's really digging in. So I need to find, I'll cut it small, so that's good. This bit's really digging in, so sometimes you need to be careful and try and use pliers or these wire cutters. It's okay, either one, just to try and wiggle it away. See, just wiggle it away, and it just comes off. But you got to cut them in small pieces, then just take it off slowly. So that's probably the worst area there that's caused a lot of damage. So I will never actually apply any more heavy wire to this branch. It's now good, it's done its job. It's never that is holding perfectly in the position I want. The smaller branches probably need wire, but that's easier to do. So I'll keep working my way down, same process. So hopefully that shows you how to get wire off safely of the tree. Do not try and recycle wire at the cost of the trees, losing a branch on a tree. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know people like to try and save money and recycle wire, which is fine. But in this case, you're not going to recycle this wire, because if you try and take it off, you'll bloody ruin the tree. You'll probably break the branch. You've got to be very careful at this stage with the wire cutting in what you need to do. So hopefully you guys can see what I've just done. Now I'm going to continue and remove that big heavy one, and then I'll show you some other damage on smaller ones, which is a bit easier to deal with. Now I'll show you one more bit here where this branch has been wired. You can clearly see right there how it's cutting there, and here it's a bit looser. But if I've been able to see, you can see a little bit here that I've actually been able to clip away. Heavy damage there. So sometimes what you can do now is you can easily unwind that. Okay? Easily unwind it, and you can actually just keep going, unwinding that, because it's a bit safer to do so. It's not like really heavy gauges and really difficult to do. Now sometimes I just clip it off in smaller chunks, so it's easy for me to manage. I'll just keep going throughout the tree and taking all the way off. So that's how I go about doing that. But again, some damage, we should heal fine, no problem at all. Here's an issue that I've run into as I was trying to get the heavy wire off of this branch. This wire isn't cutting in as much, but the smaller wire was cutting in, so I was removing that. Now I get to the kind of the tip of the branch. Now this is one branch, this is the tip. Now you can see, as always, the tip always grows the strongest and fastest. But now what happens is, if that happens, the wire is heavily cut in heavily. Like you can actually see the small, probably just see it, I'll try and show you there. You just see it really cutting in. Here it's really cutting in there. So this is where you need to be careful. And this is, you can't get the wire cutters in there. So you actually need to find the end, if you can, of the wire, either up here or up there. You can always snip it off. But here I am. I've got found the end of it, and now I carefully have to try and unwind this wire off this branch. And I will take my time, because I'm going to get to a nasty bit now where it's really dug in, and then you just have to slowly try and wiggle the branch around. So if the wire's cutting in, you wiggle that branch that way, so I can try and squeeze the wire out of the gap. So I've just squeezed it out of the gap in there, and just slowly keep going throughout the tree. Now there's another bit here that's going to be a bit tricky, I believe. Let's see if I can get it out. Yeah, got it out. So that was safely navigated. So once I'm gone through the danger area, I just pretty much leave the wire. Now, same thing's happened on this side of the wire, this side. So this wire wired two branches now. It can either keep going from the top or come down here, like before, find the end which is there. I can slowly unwind. It's going to be very hard, as I said, it's going to be very hard to try and get wire cutters into those little grooves where it's cutting in. So if you do that, if you start cutting all the wire off, you're never going to get that bit of wire that's stuck in there. Does that make sense? So you won't have any leverage point to be able to pull that wire out. You're going to have to dig with some sort of pliers to try and get it out. But by doing this, slowly getting through the grooves, I get it out. Okay, so that's come out safely with just some damage to the branch, but that was going to be always the issue. The branch is always going to be damaged, and so on. But now with the heavy stuff, now that I've cleared that out, I'll just start clipping the heavy stuff, and it should just automatically fall off. So if I go, these ones should just cut. If you cut along the way, they should just drop off, because it hasn't really cut in that hard. So you can see they're just starting to fall away. Any area that is cutting in will take a little bit harder to get off, but I don't think there's anywhere there that's an issue. So most of this just falls off. So after removing all the wire and doing a cleanup of the tree, mainly you can see cleaning up pads, cleaning up the pads underneath, you really start to see a nice tree. Now I've removed all the wire. I haven't actually put any wire back on, so it's pretty much done its job. There's probably a few bits of wire I could put down here, but I might give it a rest this year. No wire at all on the tree. This is just a brace that I've got on the tree. Probably can remove that actually now that I was just holding the tree up so it doesn't fall down too much. But by cleaning up underneath, you can see the pad development and so on. But this video is purely about wire and removing wire. Now, these are the remnants of all that, or me cutting off all that wire. So please cut off wire if it's safe to do so. If you want to remove wire and try and reuse, do it safely, but not recommended. But if you have to, you have to. But yeah, there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed that and learn a few tips there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.